Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening. First tonight, a court has heard a negligent driver is haunted every day by a crash which killed a motorcyclist in Sprayton. Robin Hastings has pleaded guilty for his role in the 2019 incident and now faces a prospect of jail time.
A crash which broke the hearts of two families. Joshua Mark Everett was riding his Kawasaki motorcycle when it was hit by an oncoming ute. The 24-year-old died at the scene. The driver of the car, Robin Hastings, who wasn't speeding, wasn't intoxicated or high, just simply failed to give way. Summed up by his lawyer as the most tragic case I've ever been involved with. The man in his 60s previously pleaded guilty to negligent driving causing death and faced the Burnie Magistrates Court today. The court heard Mr Hastings has had trouble sleeping since the incident here in Sprayton, experiencing nightmares, even visions of the victim's helmet. He's also terrified of going to jail. While acknowledging the case's tragic circumstances, the prosecution reasserted the driving was still negligent. Mr Hastings will be sentenced next month. Garth Burley, 7 Tasmania News.
2 protesters have been arrested after allegedly locking themselves to gates and machinery at a mine site near Tulla. The Bob Brown Foundation is calling for operations to halt at the Venture Minerals site.
Riley Creek mine is going to damage the Tarkine. It's going to have enormous impacts on the environment.
Look, it's disappointing that protesters actually go to a site and therefore wish to be arrested just to heighten their protest. So from a government's point of view, again, it's about making sure when protesters protest that they do it lawfully.
2 men aged in their 20s are expected to face court over trespass charges. A 19-year-old woman has also been summoned to appear. Staff at a Burnie aged care home have rallied outside the centre, saying severe understaffing is impacting residents. The One Care Umina Park facility is one of the largest in Tasmania. Unions say workloads have become unmanageable and they're concerned about the possible return of coronavirus.
Fix staffing now! Fix staffing now!
The company says it's delivering exceptional care and has hired 18 additional staff members since July to improve the work environment. One of Tasmania's top cops has called the number of speeding drivers a disgrace. This year has seen more deaths and more injuries on the state's roads than at the same time last year. Authorities are launching yet another campaign in a desperate bid to save lives.
If that's clear, we'll get the ambulance in that side.
Ripping off doors in a race against time. Inside the mangled car, crews shield the driver.
Breaking glass.
A path is cleared for paramedics to reach the patient. With spinal injury a major fear, the job is painstaking.
So we're going to move on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Minutes later, a woman is loaded into the ambulance. But it's going nowhere. Today is just practice. Sadly, this year, emergency services have seen the real thing far too often.
I just don't think the message is getting through to Tasmanians that we must slow down. We don't have mainland influence here on our roads. It's the Tasmanians.
The road toll for 2020 is breathtaking.
31 fatalities, 213 serious injuries. Fatalities, 7 more than last year. The serious injuries, 20 more than last year.
There's often a feeling of trepidation when we're responding to serious crashes. But we never know exactly what we're going to face, who's going to be involved in the incidents.
56,000 Tasmanians were slapped with speeding fines last financial year.
It's disgraceful, absolutely disgraceful. There's so many people getting caught speeding.
To combat the crisis, a new campaign will hit screens, hammering home the safety message once again and asking drivers to consider the impact on emergency workers.
Delivering the news that someone's loved one has died in a crash is one of the hardest things we have to do.
Wearing a seatbelt can be the difference between surviving a crash or not.
In case you need to hear it again,
just make sensible road decisions every time you get into your vehicle to take a drive.
Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
Drilling has begun at the controversial proposed site for the Northern Regional Prison. The start of works had been called off twice with protests at the Westbury location yesterday. The state government says the drilling is an important part of the planning process and the local environment will be protected. A survey of 30,000 Tasmanian students has found the majority are coping with school despite the disruption of COVID-19. 96% of students between years 4 and 12 felt they had good support from teachers, but there was a small decline in student wellbeing.
There's not too much difference between last year's wellbeing survey and this year's wellbeing survey. A slight decline in wellbeing, which you would appreciate could well be a result of the pandemic.
What I think is concerning is that we see that in areas of optimism for the future, hope, happiness.
The state government says it will use the data to better focus on its wellbeing efforts. A leader of an Antarctic expedition set to depart from Tasmania says the time is passing quickly in hotel quarantine. 118 French and Italian nationals arrived in Hobart last week ahead of the year-long research trip. Many of the internationals have been staying connected via social media while forced to stay in their rooms.
This quarantine is sort of an opportunity to create a form of team building before to go and spend the whole year in Antarctica. And this is really important.
Expeditioners won't be allowed to see Tasmania, with a military-style operation to guard them before they leave for the icy continent. Well, next year's Soggy Bottom Regatta in Launceston has been cancelled as a result of the pandemic. The annual event sees Tasmanians race boats made out of cardboard.
We thought we had it licked until we went and talked to the government, the specialists, and they said everything going well except one thing. You've got a wonderful public lake that is free to anybody, which means we can't trace or control people at the event.
It's hoped the event will return to the Waverley Lake Park in 2022. And another Christmas event is on the chopping block. The St Helens Carnival won't take place in January, with organisers saying issues around keeping people COVID safe and finding enough volunteers led to their decision. It's been running in its current form since 1954. Elon Musk's global footprint continues to grow, with 60 satellites set to blast into space from south of Tasmania tomorrow. The fleet of equipment will launch from the South Pacific Ocean near New Zealand. It's part of the tech tycoon's plan for high-speed satellite internet, which is tipped to compete with the NBN. A young girl from Selborne in the state's north has 10,000 reasons to keep fishing after catching a tagged trout at Lake Roallan. Tasmanians have until May to snap up the remaining tagged fish in lakes across the state.
Reeling in the prize when 12-year-old Fiona Batterham caught a trout on Sunday, she had no idea how lucky she was.
While I was measuring it, I yelled out, "Dad, Dad, we got a fish. It's got a tag on it."
That tag has seen Fiona win $10,000 as part of the state government's tag trout promotion. And while there's plenty of fish in the sea, it started as a tough day for the Batterhams.
It was very quiet fishing. We hadn't caught a fish all morning. And then James yells out, "The fish is on." He saw it jumping and I didn't see that, missed it. And Fiona's grabbed the rod and wound her in and hey presto.
With a cheque in hand, Fiona has no doubt in her mind how to spend it.
Buying more fishing gear.
The Tasmanian government hopes this competition will be enough to get people hooked into fishing. And if you don't have any plans this weekend, there's another 4 tagged trout to catch. The remaining trout can be found in Great Lake, Arthur's Lake, Lake Burbury and Lake Pedder. Meanwhile, aquaculture giant Tassal has come under fire over allegations it kept fur seals in an empty salmon pen without food for multiple days. The company had been given a DPIPWI permit to keep the seals in the pens in 2016, but the department investigated the company's conduct with no charges laid.
In terms of the rules and regulations around seals, you've got to protect the farm workers. They've got a job to do. And then you need to ensure the animal welfare regulations are in place as well. So you've got to get that balance. They've taken advice from the Director of Public Prosecution.
Tassal says it continues to operate within the seal management framework. Elizabeth O'Neill, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmania has turned the tables in its Sheffield Shield clash against South Australia. Charlie Wakeham and Ben McDermott put on a super pairing, but neither could crack a century. The Tigers were 3 for 15 early in the day. They're now well in control, with Jake Doran firing late today. Fresh out of quarantine, Jason Gillespie was dizzy with excitement at South Australia's start.
Oh, does it again, and is he taken? Yes, the catch is taken.
Nathan Ellis becoming the third Tiger to fall, but Tasmania had few slip-ups from there. Those who enjoyed Adelaide's sunshine watched as the visitors made the ground their home.
Flat ball, pulled, great shot from McDermott. Has it gone all the way? It has. 6 runs.
Charlie Wakeham made the half-century target first, Ben McDermott soon after. The pair swinging the pendulum back in Tassie's favour. A match-saving 154-run stand coming to an end with Wakeham on 83.
Edge, and he's caught by Ferguson at first slip.
McDermott was far from done, belting 2 sixes in 3 balls.
And another 6 for the Tasmanian.
Jake Doran lucky when a nick fell just short. McDermott not so much.
Pulled this time. Chance of catching, he has caught it. Well, he gets the reward, Kane Richardson. And McDermott disappointed, he falls on 90.
His contribution puts the Tigers in an enviable position heading into day 3. And 18-year-old spin bowler Will Parker has signed with the Hobart Hurricanes after debuting for Victoria last year. Northwest graduates say a change of strategy helped the side secure its first Premier League hockey crown in 6 years. The team tried to limit penalty corners, which University had used to great effect throughout the season.
With the penalty corners, you know, they've scored X amount of goals this year from it with Ben Reid. He's clinical from there, and we had a big week on the track, just making sure our tackles were clean, especially inside the circle.
It was pretty special, especially for our coach, Stephen McMullen. It's his last year coaching, so it was kind of nice to send him off in a good way.
While players from OHA have only just had their heart rates return to normal after an epic ending to their grand final, which saw Diamondbacks in with a chance to slot an equaliser.
The last 30 seconds, it was all in our defence and it was pretty scary, but, you know, we held it out, and when the siren went, I couldn't have been happier. It was so good.
We were in our defence, we were scrambling, we had all 11 players behind the ball. No one was going to give them an inch, so it was, terrifying, but a good outcome.
It was OHA's first crown in the women's competition since 2015.
Good evening. Temperatures range from -1 at Butler's Gorge to 19 at Friendly Beaches, Bushy Park, Fingal and Campania. Hobart and Launceston 17 today, Burnie 16, Devonport 15 degrees, Grove and St Helens 18, Smithton 17, Lowhead 16, Strawn and the Islands 15. Patchy low cloud over most of the state, fairly clear over the Midland, Central Plateau and North Coast. The cloud over our region precedes a band of cloud with a cold front to the southwest. The bulk of Western Australia clear, but patchy cloud over a good portion of the nation. Tomorrow a cold front clips our south as a ridge of high pressure tracks over the Bight. Surface troughs stick to their guns further north. Winds west norwesterly 5 to 15 knots, more variable over the northwest and east coast, 10 knot breezes inland. The only warning is a minor flood warning, that's current still for the Jordan River. Forecast for Hobart, expecting a top of 17 and a possible shower. A shower or two tomorrow for Geeveston, 17 the maximum. Bothwell a possible shower and 15. Launceston, heading for a top of 18 degrees, a cloudy but fine day. Devonport the same, but 17 the top and 17 for Cressy, a shower creeping in. 17 the high for Burnie and cloudy, showery for Strawn, 15 the top, 15 for Curry on King Island. St Helens tomorrow expecting 17, a cloudy day. Possible shower further south at Swansea, 16 the top, 17 at Orford. On Thursday, possible showers for the north, the east and south, cloudy for the rest of the state. Showers over the north on Friday, maybe creeping again over the east, while on Saturday showers to start us off before contracting to the west, far south and northeast. Partly cloudy and 25 for both Perth and Adelaide, 19 the high in Melbourne, mostly sunny and 24 degrees in Sydney, fine and partly cloudy in Brisbane. Bit of cloud in Hobart, 14 the top, 14 currently, 14 in Launceston and sunny at the moment, Devonport fine and 13 degrees. Kim, that's the weather for International Chef's Day. It's a day that chefs pass on their knowledge and also encourage healthy eating. It's also a day a brand new recipe book was announced, and it's been the first book ever entirely dedicated to cooking with herbs. It's about time.
That is good. We'll pay that one. That's your news for now. I'll be back later with updates. Thanks for joining us. Good night. That was a good one.